This podcast is a proud member of the Fan Hub 100. Football without fans is nothing, so we've partnered with Fan Hub to put fans first. Search Fan Hub app to play your part in the journey.
Welcome back to another Speak Sunderland Reaction podcast. We were away to MK Dons yesterday for the second time in 5 days in a game that did end 2-2 somehow. And joining me to talk about the game and more about it is John and Martin, who is, of course, MK Dons fan. How are you all getting on, fellas?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Been looking forward to it all day.
No worries. We'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure. As we all know, the game did end 2-2 yesterday with goals from Charlie Wyke and Luke 9 for Sunderland and Joe Mason and Cameron Jerome for MK Dons, a name I'd prefer to refrain from mentioning when possible. But John, I think to say yesterday's game was one for the neutral wouldn't be a bad description.
Yeah, obviously we're not neutrals, are we? We live and breathe it every week. I wasn't that impressed barring sort of 15-20 minute spells, maybe one in the first half and one in the second half. But yeah, still struggling for consistency. But on the whole, like you say, for a neutral, it's probably a decent game.
Yeah. And Martin, obviously we played each other on Tuesday and then again yesterday. How do you think that affects like the preparation for these games in terms of like the tactics and just the mentality?
I think it was quite interesting. I can't remember the last time we've had anything like that with MK, but I think it looked a bit to me as if we sort of looked at some of Tuesday's game and learned from it for a bit for Saturday. Obviously, we had slightly different teams out for both games. Jerome wasn't included on Tuesday because he nearly left us on Monday on deadline day. But yeah, I thought yesterday's game was good. Really enjoyed it. I thought we were very lucky to come away with a point though.
Yeah. We will look at the teams, and obviously we'll start with MK Dons. Fisher starting goal, O'Hara, Lewington, the captain, Darlin, who I know Frankie enjoyed seeing his name on commentary, Ethan Laird at right back, obviously on loan from Manchester United, Thompson, Zach Jewells, Matt O'Reilly, Joe Mason, Cameron Jerome, and Scott Fraser. And Martin, in terms of comparing the side that played against us midweek to the side that played against us yesterday, how many changes were made and just how different was the team?
I think it was 5 changes we made because obviously on Tuesday we did have to include, you can't completely just put out a whole youth team because of the rules and the stuff. And we've had a few fines over the years for doing that. But I think it was quite interesting yesterday seeing some of the lads like Ethan Laird, Jules, trying to remember Darling, and that came in that were cup tied on Tuesday. But yeah, I think some of our fans were probably overplaying a bit on Tuesday, saying that we had put out the kids and stuff. But it was still a fairly strong, sort of not completely strong, but it wasn't completely sticking out a second team. But on set yesterday, I think it was a much stronger team. Probably not our first choice 11. I think we've got Kasumu, who should be back next week, who was still missing, and Jules making his debut. I think looked like he struggled a bit, but yeah, I was pretty pleased with the team we put out yesterday.
Yep. Sunderland lined up with Lee Burge in goal, Max Power at right back. Jordan Willis came in for Tom Flanagan, who did get injured in the warm-up, I believe. Bailey Wright started alongside him, and Jake Vogans made his debut at left back. Grant Ledbetter and Luke 9 were in midfield, and a front 4, I suppose, of Aidan McGeady, Lyndon Gooch, Aidan O'Brien, and Charlie Wyke. And John, again, multiple changes from the game that was against MK Dons on Tuesday. A lot of people question O'Brien coming back in. Obviously, against MK Dons on Tuesday, we played with a high press, a lot of running, a lot of direct play. Also, Ledbetter came back in for, I suppose it was Dan Neil, because I think he came on quite early in the game. Was it a lineup you expected to see? Was the changes that were made warranted, do you think, after the game on Tuesday?
I don't think the changes were warranted. Obviously, I've probably got mixed feelings from the start and after the game. I was championing for Dan Neil to start because I think he just gives us something different, and obviously how well he played midweek. Diamond the same. His pace would have caused them a lot of problems like it did midweek. And the same again this week. But he's chose to go with move Gooch out to the wing, bring O'Brien back. But the high press, even though we seemed to try, just it wasn't as effective as it was midweek. And I can't understand why we didn't go with that again, because there's no pace between Wyke and O'Brien. And a lot of people said it was O'Brien's best game, but I don't know. My opinion is it wasn't his best game, and his pressing wasn't good enough. It's just not fast enough. Wyke, we can make way for, because like he did yesterday, he did score, held the ball up okay. But O'Brien, I wouldn't have had him there. I'd maybe have stuck Gooch in there and said stay high and press them, because they didn't want to lump the ball, which is fine because they are good at passing the ball out. But midweek we did shut it down properly, and it stopped a lot of their attacks. And when they did get attacking, I'd say they tore us to shreds. I'm surprised they didn't attack us a little bit more. But yeah, the team I wasn't that impressed at all. It needs a lot of freshening up from that team still. I thought Leadbitter was slow and poor. Hence why I'd have probably even had Scowen in there over Leadbitter. 09 was decent in there. But yeah, it was a weird one from Johnson. I wasn't impressed.
Yeah. Well, the game started, and very similar to the game midweek against them, and a couple of games recently, we did take an early lead. Aidan McGeady got the ball. He's played it through to Wyke, who's finishing at the far corner. There was another goal from Wyke, who's having a really good season, John. But once again, as we continue to say, we scored a goal and pretty much just went downhill.
Yeah, again, it's a strange one, because we didn't start very well, which is normally the other way. We start well and then we concede, but we started quite slow, and then sort of our first attack, it was a good little move actually, to be fair, and a great finish. And then we don't build on it. We scored the first against Gillingham and just totally regressed. It's what I want to see from, we keep saying about all these players in the team who are, your Wright, your Powers, and your Leadbitters, McGeady's. Let's keep the ball. Let's frustrate them. Slow the game down to our pace. They need to come out at us, because obviously we're 1-0 up, but it just doesn't happen, and I can't fathom why.
Yeah, and Martin, obviously, as an MK fan, you saw it yesterday. You saw it on Tuesday. We got the first goal, and as soon as we scored the goal, MK Dons kind of started to dominate the game, created the best chances, and obviously yesterday made it count, as opposed to Tuesday they didn't. As an MK fan, what do you make of that period?
It was quite strange. I mean, we're pretty common. It seems to be every week now we concede early first on, and it's always been a bit of a heads down. We concede, and then the rest of the first half we won't do anything. But I think we changed it a bit yesterday, and I think Sunderland, you gave Scott Fraser a bit too much time in the centre, and I think we were able to get the balls into the box. And I think Matt O'Reilly as well, who's a new lad that's come in 2 weeks ago from Fulham, but he's been training with our team all season, so he's gelled pretty quickly. And I think those two getting on the ball and able to put crosses in. I think the first goal was Fraser, and then Jerome's got onto it, and then Mason, and then I think second goal we kind of realised that was a good. If we could get crosses into the box, we were going to get something out of it. So it was pleasing to see from our perspective, but also it was a really, really poor goal to concede on our half. I think I think Wyke's an absolutely fantastic striker for this level, but O'Hora needs to be doing a lot better than that. But it was pretty well worked goal, so I can't complain too much. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we scored, obviously MK equalised, and Lee Burge, as he has been quite a few times this season, was questioned again. Scott Fraser, as Martin mentioned, he had a lot of space on the edge of the box. He's hit a strike. Lee Burge parried it straight to Cameron Jerome. He's put it back in the box, and Mason scored pretty much a simple tap in. It was another off game for Burge. Obviously, we will get into the play ratings a little bit later on. Matthews had a decent game against MK Dons on Tuesday. Were you at all surprised to see Lee Burge come straight back in, John?
No, I don't think you could drop him. I think it's maybe a little case of the Jason Steele effect that we've had before. If he drops Burge after last weekend's game, and obviously Matthews plays well with midweek, Lee Burge's confidence is going to be shot to bits, and after that, and then if Matthews has a bad game yesterday, then what do you do? It's a real tricky one. So it probably was the right decision to maybe play Burge, but he still doesn't command his area very well. He doesn't collect crosses like right inside his box. And for the goal, the second save, I think for the first goal, the second save is decent, but the first one, he needs to just push that away. He almost seems to claw at it, which stops it from going. So it just lands at the feet of the MK Dons player, and we're banging trouble. Our defence don't help him either. They're all stood still, sort of with their thumbs at the backside, and then sort of throw their arms in the air. It's like, well, all right, keeper's made a mistake, but we've got to react. We've got to do it all together, and they didn't. Hence why they scored.
Yeah. I liked how you refrained from saying his name there, the MK Dons player. I do like that. But obviously, not long after they equalised, MK Dons took the lead again in what was the first questionable refereeing decision of the game. Ball was sent to the box low and hard. Jerome's got on the end of it and tapped into an empty net. On stream, again, you see one angle and it's never in line with the defensive line, so you can never really tell. But obviously, when he's made contact with the ball, he's 2 or 3 yards ahead of the defender. Where he started the run from, I don't know. But John, as I say, it's always difficult to tell from the stream, and I don't know if you've seen it back. But moving away from the refereeing decision, Sunderland have got to defend that better. Yeah,
it's really poor. The guy who starts with the ball, obviously, I can't, forgive me for not knowing the names, but the guy who starts with the ball out on the touchline manages to come all the way inside, sort of not. Luke O'Nien sort of, just chasing him. No one comes out to press him. And then, simple sort of shot through. I think it actually exposed Bailey Wright a little bit because Willis is quite deep marking. So when the ball comes through, I think he is onside. But if you look at where Bailey Wright's 5 yards away from him, doesn't go with him, puts his hand up in the air. But Jordan Willis is on the edge of the 6-yard box, so there would have been still a couple of yards grace he would have had. I'm not saying Jerome's lightning quick, but when you look at it, when he does actually score, he looks miles offside. But for me, Jordan Willis is playing him on, but Willis and Wright are just not on the same wavelength. Wright lets him go, which I think it's a whole collective defensive thing of not working hard enough and not switching on. We've been exposed.
Yeah, and Martin, for you at the time when obviously Jerome's tapped it into not an empty net, but into the bottom corner, were you kind of expecting to see a flag go up at all?
Yeah, I mean, we were watching it on Zoom, and I thought straight away that flag would go up because. But I think equally, Jerome is one of those players. Like he's definitely a lot quicker than I think his age would say.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult to tell. I'm sure we'll get our scouting video at some point and I'll be able to tell. But I did think it was offside at first, but obviously not gonna say no.
Yeah. Well, Sunderland did improve after they did go 2-1 down. Possibly should have had 2 or 3 goals in the latter stages of the first half. Charlie White had a good effort. Good chance, sorry, not a good effort. But John, given our results this season, as I said towards the end of the quiz that we did, only one of our league wins this season we've actually conceded in. And I think our last league win that we've conceded twice in was, I believe, Gillingham in our first season away from home. I think it was 4-2 that game. At half time, 2-1 down. Did you think the game had, gotten away from Sunderland really?
I thought a lot of people said we were very strong just before half time, but I don't think we were scintillating. I think it took 5-10 minutes in the second half to get going. And then, like you say, we probably could have won the game sort of 4-5-2. And obviously MK Dons had their chances as well. But it seems we're very. It's quite a tricky one that we don't seem to be like the Lincoln game we won. Obviously it was 4-0. In hindsight, if Lincoln take their chances, it's 4-2, totally different scoreline. Do you know what I mean? So it's not. We can't seem to just beat teams to nil. We're still shaky at the back. Wright is not the player that he was last season. Obviously, Willis is carrying an injury. We're playing fullback, playing midfielders at fullback, and we haven't got commanding goalkeepers. It's very up in the air still at the back. Obviously, we want to play attacking football. That comes of its disadvantages in this league because obviously we get caught and we get overrun. We've got slow midfielders in sort of Ledbetter and Scowen who just can't get back, who have to then take bookings. And once you saw yesterday, Ledbetter takes booking, he can't foul anyone else. Otherwise, that's it. Do you know what I mean? So it nullifies his game. It's a massive balancing act, I think, to like we're not going to be able to just smash it. If we are, we're going to have to go hell for leather. And like I say, we have to win games like 4-2, 5-3, stuff like that. But if we're winning games, that's fine. But that's not how it works.
Yeah. Sunderland did start the second half unchanged, which I think a few people, I know myself, would like to have seen Dan Neil come on at half time instead of Ledbetter, kind of get us up the pitch a bit more, get the ball moving a bit quicker, but we didn't. We got kick-off. 9 seconds into kick-off, we lost the ball, and MK Dons had a half chance for a certain striker that he did head wide of the post, but 10 minutes into the half, Sunderland did equalise. Aidan McGeady shot, or if he claims it as a pass, I don't think he will, but it's found 09 in the box. He spun well, he's finishing in the bottom corner, and he's made it 2-2. But usually at this time in the podcast, I sum up the second half with one sentence and move on, player ratings, so on and so forth. But it may take a bit longer this time because a lot actually happened in the second half yesterday, and much of it surrounded the officiating in this league once again. And I know I sound like a broken record, we sound like a broken record, but the standard of refereeing in this league is just nothing short of shocking. And it's not just League One, it's not just the EFL. Obviously, we saw in the West Ham game yesterday, that the refereeing is just not up to standard in this country. And Martin, we will talk briefly about the individual decisions very shortly, but where do your main frustrations lie with the officiating in this country?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I think for us at MK, our chairman's been a massive, he's massively in favour, and he's always brought this up at EFL meetings that, especially at League One, we need full-time referees now. I think if you look at the referee yesterday, obviously has to work all week and then expect for a game with that sort of pressure to be able to officiate and keep up with the game is quite difficult. And that's with regards to League One. But I think I agree with you across the whole of English football. I think that was very apparent last night that we're not seeing referees being held to the sort of accountability that I think that needs to be done so. But yeah, agree with you. Yesterday's game, I think the officiating kind of spoiled it in the second half a bit for me. I think it was a very open game, and I think we could have seen a bit more from it. But I think the referee decided to sort of bottle a few big decisions for both teams.
Yeah. There was 3 big decisions that we will talk about now, and the first one was for Sunderland. A ball was sent into the box. O'Brien's won the header, and he's headed the ball off the hand of the MK defender. I'm not exactly sure who it was, but the referee's 5 yards away, a clear view. There's no one in his way, and he didn't give it. Any law in the game states that as a penalty. VAR in the Premier League gives that as a penalty. John, how hasn't he given that?
Again, I'm not sure. I think the only thing you can say is he's bottled it because he was in a perfect position, absolutely perfect. No one headers the ball with their hand sort of behind their head. It's a weird one. It does hit his hand. Linesman can see straight across because there wasn't many players in the box. So it baffles me how he's not given it. Yeah, I still don't know to this day.
Yeah. And Martin, obviously at the time you said it was a penalty. We spoke a little bit before the podcast. You still think it was a penalty? Is there any thinking that you can kind of comprehend as to why the referee hasn't given that, because he's clearly seen it, and if he hasn't seen that, then I do worry.
Yeah, to be fair, I'd love to be able to come here and be sort of back MK, but Darling's made a silly mistake to get his arm that high, and I mean when I saw it happen on iFollow, I thought straight away that was a penalty. You can't miss it from 5 yards away. But yeah, we massively let off with that one.
Yep. Next decision, I think it was the next one anyway. Apologies if I do get this in the wrong order, but Luke O'Nien, he was booked earlier in the game for a very cynical pullback. No doubt, yellow card. Later in the game, I think it was Ethan Laird was running ahead of him. O'Nien's tried to sort of move across him without making contact. Laird has, I suppose it's fair to say, intentionally clipped O'Nien and went down. And now that's a foul. Yes, I don't think there was really too much doubt about that. But a second yellow for me, if that's against us, I'm screaming at the TV for a red card. Laird is clever about it. As I said, he kind of initiates the contact, but, O'Nien hasn't done anything wrong. But with the nature of the foul, the timing in the game and the positioning that Laird was, obviously he's moving forward on the break. I think, he's probably lucky enough to get a second yellow there. And Martin, first up on this one, was O'Nien lucky to stay on there?
I think initially I thought he'd be getting second yellow for that because I think it did look like he clipped him. But I would say sort of Laird throughout the afternoon, I think he was making a bit of a meal out of everything he could. And I think in some respects, I think when the ref looks at that and probably looks at it a bit more subjectively, it's quite difficult. And I think I agree. I think if he had given a yellow there, I feel like it's one of those where he would have given a yellow possibly if it was his first, but as a second yellow, that's quite a difficult call to make. And I think a referee isn't going to make that sort of decision for a second yellow for a small foul. So I think it's sort of one of them where it's like you see him given sometimes, and I spoke to a few other Sunderland fans about it. And they also, I think they agree. I think it's one of those where I think if you're an MK fan, you're going to see that as a second yellow and be a bit disappointed. If you're a Sunderland fan, you'll see it the other way. But I think it's not. It'd be quite a harsh one to give, if I'm honest. I think having thought about it now and taken the emotion out of it.
Yeah, and John, obviously, Lee Johnson spoke after the game. He said he thought he was lucky to stay on the pitch. What did you make of it?
Yeah, like you say, if that's his first one, he probably is booked. He probably does actually give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's got the penalty thing on his mind. Maybe thinking he's got one wrong, so he's given us one. I think 09 does actually try and just go round to just cover him the other side. So it is a little bit of an unlucky one, but like you say, if it's against you, you're probably screaming for it. But that's the inconsistency of the referees.
Yeah. And the third and final, I say big decision. There wasn't too much made of it at the time, but was a penalty shout for MK Dons. Obviously, Vokins, he had a decent game throughout. There was a few times he did look suspect defensively, but Laird was in the box. Laird went down. A goal kick was given at the time. And, the first replay that we saw, I thought we were quite lucky and got away with one. And I said that on Twitter. And then many Sunderland fans pointed out they seemed to see Vokins get a touch on the ball and kind of kick it off Laird for a goal kick. And, I'll admit I haven't seen it back, so I can't really comment on it. But again, Martin first. At the time, surely you're shouting for penalty there, are you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it now. At the time, I tweeted, I think, saying like, "How on earth is he not given that as a penalty?" And then I actually missed the replay at the time, and I think a few of my mates on my Zoom call were saying like, perhaps actually on second thoughts, it would have been another one that was a bit harsh to give. And I think it does kind of link back to that second one where I think Laird was kind of putting himself around a bit throughout the afternoon. So again, it's one of those where it was perhaps disappointing to not see it given, but equally, it would have been a big stroke of luck, I think, if he had been given it. So, yeah, I can't complain too much, I think.
Yeah. And John, obviously, he did give a goal kick, so the referees guessed at it, or he has seen Vokins kick the ball off Laird. At the time, did you think we were lucky to get away with that one?
Yeah, I think they showed it back straight away, and even Danny Collins said on the stream, like you're thinking, we were a bit lucky there because it sort of just got glossed over quickly. Yeah, when the tackle went in, I was a little bit worried, thinking, oh no, it's a penalty. But he's given a goal kick, so him or the assistant have obviously seen something and not given it, thankfully. But like you say, you've seen him given. You've seen him given.
How much do you think the handball incident affected that decision? Do you think if he'd given the handball, he's perhaps less lenient with that foul, John?
You don't know. You don't know what the thinking is of the referees. Do you know what I mean? Because, like we said, apparently the referee is actually a doctor and he works on the front line for the NHS, and so you think he's quite, he's going to have a, quite an upfront personality, and he's going to be fairly honest. It's hard to think if they bottle like decisions, like really to really think that, but then there's no other excuse for it. Do you know what I mean? So it really is a tricky one. Really is.
Yeah. The last thing to mention before we move on to player ratings, John, 95th minute. We're on the attack, last attack of the game. Don't know who it was, but he's played a ball through to McGeady. The ball's come across his body. He's decided to take a touch and cut inside. His shot's blocked. Was the opportunity there for McGeady just to hit that first time and test the keeper?
Yeah, I think so. But he's one of those things with Aidan McGeady. He likes to take his touch and maybe do one better. I'll go around the keeper instead of just levering it in. So obviously he's a lot closer to the goal, whereas normally he'd cut inside and sort of smash it from outside the box. So yeah, I said a few choice words at the telly and hit the floor very hard. Let me tell you.
Fair enough, Martin. It did finish 2-2. On the balance of play, refereeing decisions aside, do you think it was a fair result, a draw, or do you think either side edged it and did all but enough to win it?
I think at the time, I think at the end of the game, I thought we were quite lucky to get away with it. I think that might have just been because of that chance in the last minute, which I thought Meady was going to stick it straight past Fisher. But I think on the thought of it, Mason had a really good chance we missed. Jerome missed a sitter in the first half, and Laird should have been scoring towards the end. So I think both teams created a lot of chances. I did think it was two decent teams playing each other. I think you could see the difference in quality between Sunderland and us. I think you had that sort of cutting edge, and I think we did sort of ride our luck a bit. So, but I still think on the whole, it was probably a fair 2-2. But I would say out of the two sides, if I had to pick, I would say you were definitely the better on the day.
Yeah. John, we will move into the player ratings. And again, Lee Burge started in goal. Said in the match report, he looked shaky. Questionable goalkeeping for the first goal. Do you think it's almost everyone goes back to John McLaughlin and people say, Lee Burge isn't good enough for League One? Do you think we've kind of been just blessed with John McLaughlin? As I don't think he's a League One keeper; he's a Championship keeper, and Lee Burge is actually a good League One keeper. If you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, that probably sums it up. I still think he's got his deficiencies. Like you say, on the streams, I mentioned it a few weeks now. I still can't hear him absolutely coming out and screaming for the ball and just putting players off and commanding his box almost. I don't think he's too bad. Because if you see since Johnson's come in, there was a stat that Roker Report were putting out about how much we use the keeper, obviously keeping the ball. And I don't think he's actually too bad on the deck and getting the ball around. When we go long, it's a bit aimless. We lose the ball and it's not really to anybody. But yesterday for me, as the second save for the first goal is decent, but the first one, like I say, just claws it and it just drops down for MK Dons to keep up the pressure and our defence don't react. So he's put himself, I think, under that pressure, which is what he's been doing. But he's better than Matthews, even though Matthews played midweek and did okay. But yes, I gave him a 5 because I think you have keepers who have the flaws that will maybe get away with them, but then you get your keepers who the one little flaw they have will cost a goal, and that's what we have in Lee Burge at the moment.
Yeah, I think I went with a 5 as well. Max Power started right back, and defensively he was called ball washing at times. I think there was one time in the first half, I think it was, where I think the balls took a deflection and him, Jordan Willis and Bailey White kind of just stand there and the player just went on past them. But it was an okay. It wasn't bad. I've given him a 5 as well, John.
Yeah, same. I've gone with a 5. I thought he was solid enough in his defending and going forward he was okay. Again, I want to see him riling up the players, especially when we're getting sort of under the cosh. I still don't see him riling up the players. As obviously being captain, and like you say, he tucks in a little bit, which gives them a bit of width, the opposition, which I don't like. So yeah, I've gone with a 5.
Yeah. Jordan Willis, as I said right at the start, Tom Flanagan was on the initial team sheet to start. He did pick up I think Johnson said it was a calf injury in the warm-up, so Jordan Willis came in. As Danny Collins said on the stream, when you're a substitute going to an away game, you don't really train to the same extent as you would if you're starting. And I think that was quite clear to see. He was a bit shaky on the ball. He was very wasteful on the ball. There was a few times he he tried to play the long ball and it's just cannoned off the front of the MK Dons forward. But for large periods, I think he was quite poor. I've given him a 5 as well, John.
Yeah, I agree with what you say. I've actually gone with a 6 because I think he does actually cover for a few of our other defensive deficiencies. Obviously, Willis, he's losing the ball a few times, and Willis's pace is a massive asset for us back there, and does bail us out a few times. To be fair, he has come in and done the job. Obviously, he wasn't starting until sort of 10 minutes before kickoff. So I thought a 6 was okay, but yeah, nothing special.
Yep. And Bailey Wright, I've got a feeling our ratings might be reversed for these two, but defended fairly well throughout. Won his fair share of headers, especially in the second half. I've give him a 6, John.
Yeah, like you say, reversed. I've gone with a 5. I think he was quite weak, and he's been weak for a few weeks now. And when I mean weak, I don't just mean like sort of like for one or two things. I just mean in general, he seems to lost. I don't know. He's just lost that edge of what he was last season. And
Yeah.
I said earlier about obviously Willis is picking up for the goal, and Wright isn't picking up Jerome, which is you can't leave a player like Jerome free in the box. You just can't just go with him. He hasn't got a simple tapping to make. So yeah, he gets a mark down for that one.
Yeah. Next one was one that caused a lot of debate on Twitter, I suppose. So, Jake Vokins made his debut at left back. Obviously, McFadzean did go off injured on Tuesday against MK Dons. Obviously, Denver Hume is still out. Early on, I think he was a bit shaky. He grew into the game, put some good balls into the box, but as with all left backs in the world, I think defensively he did look a bit out of place at times. He did look a bit, especially early on. I think I seen someone say he looked a bit drunk in the early stages, but no, I don't think it was a bad debut. I know a local report give him a 3 out of 10, which I thought was harsh to say the least. But I don't think he was too bad. I've given him a 6, John.
I've gone for 5. I thought he looked like a youngster. He was very keen, but I just thought he was quite poor positionally, considering he is a left back. And I thought he was fairly poor in possession as well. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It was his first game. Obviously, he's learning. McGeady did come back and help him a few times, but if McGeady's right up the pitch, he's going to be a bit exposed. And you could tell that the diagonal ball from MK Dons was always on, so they would have been targeting him, and they targeted him pretty well, to be fair. But yeah, a 5. But I'm not writing them off, but I just don't think it was as good as I maybe expected from a Premier League loan player who's actually played a few times for Southampton this year.
Yep. Moving into midfield, they've got Nyan. Obviously impressed on Tuesday night, and he kept his place in the team because of it. Obviously he's got a second goal, which as Lee Johnson said, he's working on his finishing a lot in training, and you could tell it was a good finish. Worked well throughout in midfield. I think that yellow card that he picked up was kind of hindered him a little bit, and obviously he was eventually taken off after he did escape a second yellow card. But performance-wise, I think he had a good game and possibly generous, but I've given him an 8 out of 10. John?
I've gone for 7. I thought he was quite combative in midfield. Like you say, plenty of energy, which is what we need. He does work hard. He gets his body in there, like most, and scored a quality goal. So yeah, it's probably slightly harsh, but yeah, I've given him a 7. Once some of our players get booked, especially midfielders, then it's almost the end of their game unless they are like Luke and I and sort of carry on doing it, and maybe lucky enough to stay on the pitch. But as soon as he is booked and we get to the 70-minute mark, he's got to think about swapping them over.
I think he's just too nice to get sent off.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a good lad, and he'll probably stay in the starting lineup now for Tuesday.
Yep. Grant Ledbetter came back into the team. A lot of people didn't agree with that, and I think I was probably one of them. He got on the ball a lot, but as we know, Grant Ledbetter does. He slows the game down a lot, possibly far too much at times. It was wasteful at times in possession, and when you're playing a 2-man midfield, having someone that just can't run does sometimes hinder you on the counter attack, as we did see against MK Dons yesterday. But I've given Ledbetter a 5, John.
Yeah, I've gone for 4. I thought he was slow and sluggish. I think he does need to be taken out of the team. There was, I don't think the MK Dons midfielder, particularly lightning quick, but some of them just ghosted past him like it wasn't it, and he was absolutely sprinting Ledbetter, and he was getting nowhere near him. So it was quite. I'm surprised he didn't get swapped for either Neil or Scowen a bit earlier. And again, once he's booked, he was just sort of dancing around players. He can't even bring them down.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really poor for me. I'd like to see him come out of the team for Neil for Tuesday, or maybe even Scowen.
Yeah, I think that you could really see his lack of pace, especially when he was going to take a corner in the second half. I don't know if you remember that, but he's breaking into a jog, and I think it took him about 5 minutes to get the corner. So he's definitely not the quickest midfielder. And again, I'd like to see Dan Neil get more game time, especially since he's still at the club. Obviously, he was meant to be getting loaned out. He hasn't. So I don't see why we can't play him. But Lyndon Gooch,
Yeah.
first of 4 attackers. And, he got on the ball a lot. He offers the pace that we do need up front. And, he did lead the press again at times. But in terms of in possession, he didn't really do much, especially in the final third. So possibly I've given him a 6 out of 10, although that's a very low 6. John?
Yeah, I've gone for 6 as well. I thought he did try. He tried a lot. It was maybe a little bit greedy. But on my notes, I've got there's if you watch when he has got the ball, there's not a lot sort of ahead of him to aim for. Very rarely, Aidan O'Brien's in the picture. Obviously, the iFollow stream isn't the best for that sort of thing, but there's not really a lot ahead of him to help him or.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a little bit limited. I'd prefer to maybe see him. I did say earlier, maybe to see him play maybe just behind Wyke and lead the press with Wyke as a bit of pace, as opposed to O'Brien and Wyke there, who haven't really got any pace. So when they are pressing, MK Dons didn't really look under any pressure. So it was almost pointless doing the press because we're not hunting as a team. Whereas if you put Gooch in there, Gooch is probably the one who probably could make it. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed again that he came off. But yes, 6. He tried his best, but nothing really came off.
Yeah. Aidan McGeady started on the other side, and as any fan, Celtic, Everton, any fan will tell you, McGeady is very frustrating at times. But he's also a threat every time he gets the ball. Put some good crosses into the box. Also got the assist. I mean, it'll go down as an assist. It was a shot, but for O'Nien's goal. And I think the thing that annoyed me the most about McGeady is, I think it was in the second half, he got the ball almost at left back. He came backwards, tried to, do a bit of skill on the ball. He's lost the ball, and luckily nothing came of it. But he is that type of player. He will try things that he just doesn't need to try in positions that he really shouldn't be trying it. But again, I've given him a 6.
Yeah, I've gone with a 7. I thought he was actually decent and looking sharp. Like you say, he lost the ball a couple of times trying things, but that's you've got to accept that if it comes off. We're sort of thinking, he's the best player in the league again. With that thought, I thought it was him who played the ball through for Charlie White's goal, was he?
Oh, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so
he got 2 assists back in, hasn't he?
Yeah, so he's definitely got the vision. He's definitely a player we need to get the best out of. I think when we changed it up a little bit and he sort of almost went missing a little bit. I don't think we got the best out of him. I think he just needs to stay wide and just let him do his thing. But we sort of accommodated Jones coming on and moved McGeady across. But the one thing frustrating for me is he's got to finish the last one. You'd have probably your mortgage on that, even to dink it over the keeper. So yeah, a bit frustrating. But yeah, I've given him a 7. I thought he was good.
Yeah. Aidan O'Brien obviously started up front again. Also, another player that did come back into the team after Tuesday's win. The one thing that I don't like about O'Brien, I think Danny said the same thing on the stream, was he does run the channels well. He'll get the ball, he'll hold it up well, and his general ball control is quite good, as you saw for the first goal. Obviously, I think the ball came into his chest. He's kind of flicked it up over the defender and then played it out wide to McGeady. But again, at times he is very anonymous. He just doesn't have the pace that we do need at times, especially if we are going to rely on the press. And again, as I said to Martin after the game, as an MK Dons fan, it must be so frustrating. Not frustrating, but heart in the mouth watching it, because every time they got the ball at the back, on a bobbly pitch, they're trying to play it out. But when you've got Aidan O'Brien and Charlie White running at you, you've got as much time as you want, really. But I've given him a 6, John.
Yeah, I've gone for 6. Some of his hold-up play was actually all right, better than in recent weeks. It was just in and out of the game. And again, his pressing is just far too slow. Do you know what I mean? I even want to see him, put a tackle in, even if he fouls the player. I haven't got a problem with giving away fouls up there. And then maybe the defender, when he sees them coming next time, will maybe think twice. But we didn't really bully them, which is what I want to see. So yeah, he's gone for 6. I probably wouldn't start him Tuesday for me. I don't think he's got what we need in there. So yeah, 6 for me.
Yeah. Would you bring Jordan Jones back in, or would you go with someone like Jack Diamond for Tuesday's game?
It's quite a tough one. I'd probably have Gooch in the middle. maybe put McGeady on the right, and then maybe put Jones in, because Jones, when he come on, did actually look quite sharp, and he can sort of carry the ball forward, which is McGeady's mainly the only one who can carry the ball forward and get us up the pitch. Gooch, obviously the same. So yeah, I'd probably have a front three behind Wyke, because obviously we need Wyke to score the goals. So maybe a front three of Jones on the left, Gooch to sort of play in and around Wyke with the press, because pressing's part of the game, part of our tactic, and then Aidan McGeady on the wing. And like you say, you could probably swap them over and keep them guessing. Diamond, I've no idea why he didn't come on, let alone start yesterday, but he's got to be another outlet we've got to bring on.
Yeah. And Charlie Wyke was the last in the starting 11. And it's a weird one, this, because I think he had a better game than O'Brien, who I've given a 6. But at the same time, I don't think he was good enough for a 7. Obviously, he was a good finish for his goal. First half, he did hold the ball up quite well. But after that, second half especially, he was just, again, similar to O'Brien, was just anonymous at times. He had a good chance in the first half to get an equaliser after the second goal. In fairness to him, the ball did bubble up a little bit, but as a striker in form, I think he's got 16 or 17 goals this season. The least you'd expect from someone in that position is to hit the target, but he didn't. So I suppose if I don't think he's a 7, but I think he was better than O'Brien, I'll have to go with a 6.5.
Yeah, I've gone for 6. Like I say, decent finish. Some of his hold-up play again was decent, but again he was in the game, and that may be on our sort of the way the game went. Obviously, MK Dons were on top a little bit, so if they're on top, Charlie Wyke's not going to be in the game. But yeah, good finish, and he's maybe it sums up Charlie Wyke, doesn't it? Obviously, he scores the first, and the second one he's almost like one-on-one with the keeper and just blazes it over the bar. It's like to at least make the keeper work. In fairness, you should be scoring. But yeah, I've just gone with a run-of-the-mill Charlie Wyke 6. But yeah, good finish, and obviously the finish will still give him, he'll still be on cloud 9 with the amount of goals he's scoring. So that can only be a good thing for us, and especially as we haven't got another striker to bring on. Obviously, because Ross Stewart's still injured and not ready, until maybe next weekend. So he knows he's got his start in place.
Yep. And Martin, obviously looking at the Sunderland team, I know on the MK podcast that I did midweek, Lugo 9 was a player that was mentioned as someone who stood out. But yesterday's game, was there any Sunderland players that stood out to you as as a threat, I suppose?
Yeah, I'd say every time McGeady got the ball, I was terrified. I think especially like what you saw, how sort of nonchalant he made that first goal look. Like you said, Luco 9, I think he seems to always score against us somehow.
Yeah.
But I think he's a brilliant player. I think especially for this level, you do need those sort of players that sort of are just going to get stuck in a lot and give it their all every week. And then obviously Cam Jerome won't like me saying this, but I do think Wyke's a brilliant player, and I think obviously he is scoring a few goals. Obviously, I think he got a hat trick against the AFC Wimbledon a few weeks ago, didn't he?
Yeah.
But I think you had a handful of players. I was very terrified, but I'd say McGeady for me was the standout player on your half.
Yep. And John, if you had to pick a man of the match, who would you go with? You'd give 2 players a 7, so.
I'd probably go over 9. I thought he was really industrious in there. Gives us something different. Always like we've said, always works hard as a grafter. Again, that's what you need, and pops up with a goal as well. So we can't argue with that. I thought, just pip McGeady to it.
Yep. Our next game is against Shrewsbury on Tuesday, again away from home, which we are still unbeaten. Predictions for that one, John?
Oh, let's just go 2-2 again. We love a 2-2, don't we? And then because I always get it wrong, it'll probably be 1-1.
Who's going to score?
Let's go for Charlie Wyke will score again. Jordan Jones gets first.
Very nice. You were a little bit off with your 5-0 yesterday, I will add.
Yeah, in fairness, we should have scored 5 and we shouldn't have conceded.
Could very easily have had 5.
Yeah, if they're not going to listen to me, then with the penalty, Wyke should score and McGeady should score, and then if we don't concede, I was bang on. But it never happens like that. It's wishful thinking.
Yep. And just quickly, what we will do is obviously FanHub, the new app, lineup predictions. John, We will get through this very quickly because we are running out of time. But in goal for you on Tuesday, this is your prediction, not necessarily the team that you would go with, but who you think will start. I need the points. I need the points here.
That differs massively. Lee Burge in goal.
And at right back?
Mr. Power again.
Your two centre halves will be?
I think you'll go Wright and Willis again. Wright and Willis again, I would have thought.
Interesting. Left back, I presume we will still only have one fit left back, so I presume Mr. Vogans. Two midfielders, unless you think we are going to change formation, but presumably we go with the 4-2-2 again. There's two midfielders for the game on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think 09 and Scowen will be in there. I think Ledbett will be rested.
9 and Scowen. Very nice. Your two wingers for the game.
He's probably still going to go. I think he might go McGeady and Jones.
Very nice. That's who I had in. Nice and easy one. And the two leading the line.
Yeah, probably O'Brien and White still.
I think Wyke's going to start.
Yeah, O'Brien and Wyke, I think, will still play.
O'Brien and Wyke. Very nice. Hopefully I can get some points for that and start to move up the fan hub table. But one thing before we go, our Bradley Fight shirts are back on pre-order this month. £27.50 for a junior shirt and £32.50 for the adult shirt. All profit obviously goes to the foundation, and I think we've raised almost £3,000, possibly over that now, and obviously want to keep building on that. So if anyone has a son, a daughter, a friend, a cousin, a granddad, anybody who has a birthday soon or anything like that, it would make a very good present, and you would be supporting a great cause in the same instance. There is another quiz that we recorded that went out last week. John gave some very questionable answers in again. Make sure to go and check that out and see how you can do. And also let us know how much you think we paid for Michael Turner, because that's an ongoing debate, John, isn't it?
4 million, because we pulled Hull's pants down.
So we say. That is all we have time for today, John and Martin. Appreciate you coming on and talking today.
No, thanks for having me.
No worries at all. And Martin, just before we go, I forgot to do this, but obviously you play Rochdale on Tuesday as well. So your predictions for that one?
I'm a bit confident. I think we'll get a 1-0 win up there. It's a ground we like going to, so can't complain. I think 1-0 win for us on Tuesday.
Very nice. Optimistic predictions all around. Apart from John, who's went with the 2-2 draw. But that is all we have time for today. We will be back midweek, hopefully, to discuss the Shrewsbury game, and then again on Sunday. Well, I'm not sure we'll play on Saturday, so let's forget I said that. But until then, we will see you later.